Mark chapter 10, picking up this morning in verse 32. And it says, and they were on the road going up to Jerusalem. And Jesus was walking ahead of them. And they were amazed. And those who followed were afraid. And taking the 12 again, he began to tell them what was about to happen to him, saying, see, we are going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be delivered over to the chief priests and the scribes, and they will condemn him to death and to deliver him over to the Gentiles. And they will mock him and spit on him and flog him and kill him. And after 3 days, he will rise. And James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came up to him and said to him, Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you. And he said to them, well, what do you want me to do for you? And they said to him, grant us to sit one at your right hand and one at your left in your glory. Jesus said to them, you do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink, or to be baptized with the baptism with which I am baptized? And they said to him, we are able. And Jesus said to them, the cup that I drink, you will drink. And with the baptism with which I am baptized, you will be baptized. But to sit at my right hand or at my left is not mine to grant, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared. And when the 10 heard it, they began to be indignant at James and John. And Jesus called them to him, and he said to them, you know that those who are considered rulers of the Gentiles, they lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. But it shall not be amongst you. But whoever would be great among you must be your servant. And whoever would be first amongst you must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. They came to Jericho, and as he was leaving Jericho with his disciples and a great crowd, Bartimaeus, a blind beggar, the son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Many rebuked him, telling him to be silent. But he cried out all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. Jesus stopped and said, call him. And they called the blind man, saying to him, take heart, get up, he is calling you. And throwing off his cloak, he sprang up and came to Jesus. And Jesus said to him, what do you want me to do for you? And the blind man said to him, Rabbi, let me recover my sight. And Jesus said to him, go your way, your faith has made you well. And immediately he recovered his sight and followed him on the way. Amen. What is true greatness? That's the question that our text is asking us this morning. What does it mean to be great? What does it look like to be great in this life? You see, for most of us, we would never honestly stand up and say, I want to be great. Right? We won't stand up and say, I deserve to be great. I deserve special treatment. Because we're just far too polite for that. We hide behind our humility and our good manners. Because no one likes to act like an entitled, self-important bragger. Well, it's not entirely true because we seem to elect enough of them in this country. But anyway, there's another point. But beneath the surface, for most of us, the search for greatness is not something we freely admit. But it shows up. It shows up in the small expectations and the quiet frustrations of day-to-day life. See, there's a little part of each of you that thinks you're a little bit important. It's the irritation of not being served quickly enough at a restaurant. It's the disappointment when your child is overlooked at a sports event. In church life, it's when you expect your service to be noticed, our preferences to be respected. We don't say it out loud, but we feel it. We feel it when we feel like we're overlooked for a position that somebody else receives, or we're overlooked at a function that we were not invited to, when our opinions don't seem to matter to others, our contributions are not acknowledged in the way we want them to be. Even the smallest inconvenience expose our sense of self-importance. A slow response to a text message. Waiting in line at Walmart. Those ordinary moments reveal just how much we quietly assume that we should come first, that we should be noticed, that we should be preferenced. So I have a confession to make, and this is going to be a little bit difficult for you to believe. But I've become a bit of a travel diva. So Bethany calls me, and this is a bit rich coming from Bethany, but she calls me a plane princess. That I've flown enough now that I've become accustomed to the little privileges that frequent flyers receive. The free upgrades, the lounge access, the complimentary drink before the plane even takes off. And when it doesn't happen, I'm genuinely shocked. I'm aghast. I'm like, what is happening? Why am I boarding in group 7? I didn't know there was a row 35 on this plane. And why did they even put a seat next to a toilet? And how did I end up here? Right, that tends to be my reaction when those ghastly events happen to me. But see, the problem isn't my seat assignment. It's what those downgrades reveal about my own heart. Somewhere along the way, privilege becomes to feel normal. We become to feel entitled. And what was once a grateful surprise becomes something we think we deserve or we've earned. And that's how pride works. It turns grace into a right, a privilege into an entitlement. And Jesus is exposing that. He's exposing the danger of that in his own disciples in our text this morning. So the main idea I want us to grasp here is that true greatness in the kingdom of God is not found in securing status or gaining recognition, but in following the servant king on the road marked by suffering, mercy, and love. This true greatness is not found in our status or our recognition, but it's in following the servant king on the road marked with suffering, mercy, and love. So what do we see? First we see we've got 4 little episodes in this pretty lengthy text that we're going to wrestle with this morning. The first thing we see is the courage of Jesus on this journey that he's on. So they're on a journey, they're walking quite some distance now on their way to Jerusalem. This is the last journey of Jesus when he's making his way steadily towards Jerusalem for their Passover festival. And so verse 32, chapter 10, Mark Gospel, says, and they were on the road going up to Jerusalem, and Jesus is walking ahead of them. So here they are, they're on a walk, they're going towards Jerusalem. But Mark wants us to feel the importance of this journey, the sense of determination with which Jesus is on this walk. This isn't just a casual road trip. Hey guys, let's go for a walk together. Jesus has a destination in view and a time, an appointment that he needs to keep. He's a man on the move, a man with a mission, a man in a hurry. There is intention in every step that Jesus is taking as he now makes his journey to Jerusalem. So Mark tells us that Jesus is walking ahead of them. Right? There's pace in his walk. There's determination in his walk as he's making his way to Jerusalem. He's not being dragged to Jerusalem against his will. He is joyfully, purposefully determined to make his way to Jerusalem. He has business to take care of there. And he's going to do it on his terms, in his own way, and in his own time. Jesus isn't caught off guard by the hostility that is going to await him in Jerusalem, the hostility of the religious elite that is conspiring against him, or the hostility of the Roman rulers that eventually will pass condemnation over him. Jesus isn't seen at all in Mark's gospel as some kind of tragic victim that got caught up in somebody else's trap. He is purposefully, intentionally walking towards the city, fully aware of what waits him there. He has a sense of focused determination. So he walks ahead. Jesus, they're on the road, he's walking ahead of them, and the disciples, he says, were amazed, and those who followed him were afraid. So you got amazement and fear in the crowd that's coming with Jesus, and a sense of amazement the disciples feel. I think it's an amazement that the hurry of Jesus, the determination of Jesus, is kind of a little bit unsettling to the disciples. They're struggling to keep up with Jesus, for one thing. Have you ever gone on a walk with family or a group of friends, and it's always that one person who walks like they're training for the Olympics, who's always like ahead of everybody else? Everyone else is trying to have a conversation, enjoying the moment, stopping for coffee, and there's that one person striding ahead of them, urgent to get to where they're going. And you're half jogging behind them, thinking, can we just slow down? Are we out for a walk or a run? Well, that's the disciples and Jesus. Right? Jesus on a mission, and the disciples are just trying to keep up with him. He's out in front. And Mark says that they were amazed and that some were afraid. You see, by this point, there's a bit of a large crowd with Jesus. So there's a pilgrimage happening towards Jerusalem that would have been normal for the Passover season. There have been people making their way towards the festival gathering. So there's a bit of a religious pilgrimage happening, but there's a particular crowd that's gathered around Jesus that seems to be focused on the teachings of Jesus and focused on what Jesus is going to accomplish or do for them. So he's built a bit of a crowd of like, this is a parade that's making its way to Jerusalem, a moving parade on the road. And there are the disciples who are close behind him, trying to keep pace. Just a couple weeks ago, Philip and I were in Ecuador, and we were driving from the city we're at, Loja, to the airport in a 4-hour treacherous taxi ride in some mountain pass with a taxi driver who was going ridiculously fast around, seemed like roads that looked like they were collapsing as we were driving on them, on this hillside. And we were driving, and all of a sudden we get stopped by a pilgrimage, a parade, so a Catholic parade, on the way to some kind of, I don't know what they were going to, but there's like donkeys and everything on this parade, and there's nowhere we can go. We're just caught in this parade, just got caught up in it as they were moving to this place. And that's what's happening here on the road. There's this parade, this group of followers who are walking with Jesus on this journey, pilgrims. But Jesus isn't walking like a pilgrim going to a feast. Jesus is walking as a king going to battle. He's going to the enemy's territory, and he's going to deal once and for all with the enemy. There's tension in the air. The religious leaders in Jerusalem are hostile against Christ and his followers. Opposition's been building for months. Accusations are swirling up in the air about who this man Jesus is and how can we stop him. And the disciples know it. They know that as they make their march towards Jerusalem, they're making their march for a fight. That they're gearing up for the opposition that's going to come against them. The disciples know that the chief priests and the scribes are watching their every move, waiting, looking for their opportunity. They don't understand everything, but they know enough to sense that the road is leading somewhere that could either be deadly or spectacular. They just don't know yet. So they're amazed at the confidence of Jesus and yet fearful of what might happen to them. But there's something in the resolve of Jesus that unnerves them. So sensing their fear and anxiety, Jesus takes the 12 to one side. He says, and they were amazed, and those who followed were afraid. And taking the 12 again, he began to tell them what was going to happen. So So he knows their anxiety, he knows their fear, and so he takes the 12 to one side, and he gives them the most detailed prediction of his death yet. So they're afraid that Jesus is about to step into an almighty fight, and Jesus, to comfort them, tells them that it's going to be worse than they think it's going to be. He just tells them every little detail. He tells them that the Son of Man will be delivered over to the chief priests. In other words, yeah, they're going to arrest me. And the scribes, the religious leaders, are going to come against me. And in fact, when they arrest me, they're going to condemn me. And not only are they going to condemn me, they're going to condemn me to death. And when they condemn me to death, they are going to kill me. I'm going to be handed over to the Gentiles. I'm going to be mocked, spat upon, flogged, and killed. So let's keep going. Ready? Let's go. Right? Like, this sounds good, right? Let's keep walking. Now, there's something striking about this. Jesus knows exactly what awaits him. He is aware of every little detail, days before it happens. Jesus names the shape of the suffering before it even comes about. Not because he kind of got wind of the plan, right? It's not because, I sent my spies ahead and I know what they're planning. He knows exactly what's going to happen because he is in charge of what happens. He is determined that this will happen. He has set this plan in motion. The one who came to save will be treated as cursed, condemned, and killed. But then Jesus says, and after 3 days, he will rise. That's why he's ready to get to Jerusalem. After 3 days, I will rise. That's the point. That's why he's in a hurry. Yes, suffering is coming, but beyond that suffering comes the most spectacular and incredible act of glory the world will ever see. This is going to be hard, but this is going to be good. So let's keep going. The cross is real, but it doesn't get the final word. Death is coming, but death will not have the last word. The resurrection is the mission. So Jesus goes willingly to his death as a conquering king to destroy death, to overcome it, to once and for all release all those who are captives, trapped under the domain of the kingdom of death and darkness. He marches to Jerusalem as a conqueror, not as a condemned criminal, but as a conqueror who will go to the cross to defeat death, not to be defeated by it. That's why he marches with determination. Now, the disciples, they cannot grasp it. They hear suffering, but they cannot understand resurrection. They don't get, how do you die and yet rise? They get, how do you storm the gates and rise and avoid death? They cannot comprehend, how do you go and get condemned and flogged and spat on and die and then rise? That makes no sense to them. They do not understand the road they're traveling on. But that's been the pattern of Mark's gospel, particularly from chapters 8 to 10. Jesus predicts his suffering. He names it. The disciples respond in confusion and blindness. Jesus teaches them again what true discipleship means. And then we just keep going through this cycle with these guys. You see, he's telling them, you cannot follow a crucified Messiah and expect a crossless Christianity. Discipleship isn't just about admiring Jesus. It's not even just about walking with him. It's not merely agreeing with him. Discipleship is about following him to the cross and to glory. It's about going with him the whole way. That's what it means to be a follower of Christ. They have courage on the journey. But then you see this contrast in the ambition of what it means to be great. So verse 35, and James and John, this is baffling to me. James and John, the sons of Zebedee, they pick this moment. They come up to him and say, teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you. What a request. What a request of James and John. It seems just even as I read it, it's just unsettling to read it. You just had this kind of deep, almost dark exchange when Jesus has just told them, I'm going to be condemned and flogged and spat on and persecuted and killed. Then I'll rise. And then James and John kind of pick that moment and say, hey, Jesus, can we talk to you? We've got a question we need to ask you. Yeah, sure. What's your question? Well, first, before we ask you a question, can you just give us a guarantee that you'll do whatever we ask? What? It comes immediately after Jesus opened up his heart to them. He's just described this most painful experience. He's told them what awaits them. And somehow this feels like the right moment for James and John to bring up the question that's clearly been bugging them. It's been the main thing that they've been thinking about the whole journey. Because they know they're on the way to Jerusalem too. They sense it. They sense we're on a march. Right? Jesus is on a mission, we're on a march. Right? And so in their mind, they're thinking, oh, this is it. Like somewhere out there, somewhere there's an army. We don't know where they are yet, but I'm sure there's something. And we're going to storm Jerusalem, and we're going to overthrow the captives, and we're going to establish the kingdom and reestablish the throne of David, and Jesus will sit on that throne. And so they get a sense of this. That they've just ignored everything Jesus has just said because they can't get past themselves. They can't get past their own picture of what they are marching towards. So even before they reveal their request, the way they introduce it exposes their heart. They say, teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask. The sense of privilege and entitlement and self-importance is staggering. No hesitation, no humility, no self-awareness of how tone-deaf this sounds in light of everything that Jesus has just said. And this is their demand. Jesus, when we go to Jerusalem and you come into your glory, so they get that bit. Right? They get the bit that Jesus is going to be glorified in Jerusalem. So when you establish your glory, could we sit on either side of you? Could we have the seats of honor? Could we rule with you? Could we have the place of greatness, of greatest authority in this kingdom that you're about to establish? So they have their eyes fixed on thrones, while Jesus has his eyes fixed on a cross. They hear Jerusalem, and they can only think of a palace. They hear kingdom, and they think of rank and privilege, power and status. They're not simply asking to be near to Jesus. They want to be prominent with Jesus. See, in the ancient world, the seats at the right and the left of the king were the highest places of honor and authority. They were the rulers. Right? They were the ones who would execute the judgments of the king in the kingdom. So they're asking to be recognized, to be the most privileged, the most powerful in this kingdom that Jesus will establish. So their request exposes something deeply human. Because we all want to matter. We all want to be seen. We all want our sacrifice to be noticed, our usefulness to be celebrated. We can speak about serving the kingdom while quietly longing for a seat of honor in the kingdom. Jesus tells them, you do not know what you are asking. Now that's Jesus being merciful to them. See, there are times when the refusal of Christ is grace because we do not understand what would happen were we to get what we would actually want. James and John want glory, but they do not understand that the road to glory comes through the cross. It comes through suffering. Jesus asked them, are you able to drink the cup that I drink or be baptized with the baptism that I be baptized? Now, those are two significant statements. The cup that I drink. In the Old Testament, the cup is always considered a cup of judgment. The cup often represents the judgment of God, the wrath of God, the holiness of God. Baptism speaks of suffering under judgment, being plunged to death. So he's talking about judgment and death. Are you able to be judged, come under the weight of judgment, and to be plunged to your death? Is that what you're asking? Can you bear it? Jesus is speaking of the cross as the place where he will stand in the place of sinners and bear the full weight of God's judgment. James and John, clearly not tracking with Jesus, say, sure, we're able. So their confidence reveals exactly how little they understand. They will suffer. Jesus even tells them, he gives them a bit of a clue. Yeah, one day you will. One day you'll be ready. One day you'll be ready and you will drink from that cup and you will be baptized in that baptism. Because James will eventually be martyred. He'll die, even on a cross. John will endure exile and persecution and ultimately die as a martyr for Christ. But Jesus says, you cannot drink the cup that I drink. You cannot give your lives as a ransom for many in the way that he will. Their suffering might look like Christ's suffering, but it isn't the same. It will not accomplish what Christ seeks to accomplish on the cross. See, there's an irony in their request. They ask to be placed at Jesus' right and left in his glory. But Mark will later show us that when Jesus is lifted up in Jerusalem, the men assigned to his right and left will not be apostles on thrones, but criminals on crosses. And that's what they're yet to understand. His exaltation comes through crucifixion, comes through suffering. Now, before we give these guys too much of a hard time, the other disciples get into the action, and they are furious with them. They're not offended because of the audacity of these men to ask such a ridiculous question of Jesus. They're offended because they got to him first. Because they're all wanting to ask the same question. They all want the same privilege. They all want the same position of honor. They share the same desire of a worldly greatness. But after all, secretly, so do we. We'll say, Jesus, I'll walk with you. But tell me, before I walk with you, will you do for me whatever I ask? Is that your relationship with Jesus? Is that your relationship with Jesus? Jesus, I will go this journey with you on one condition. Give me whatever I ask. Jesus says, you cannot bear it. You cannot bear it. He's so gracious to us. But then Jesus redefines what true greatness is. Look at verse 41. Verse 41 says, and when the 10 heard it, they began to be indignant at James and John, and Jesus called them to him, and he said to them, you know that those who are considered rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. But it shall not be so amongst you. For whoever will be great amongst you must be your servant, and whoever will be first amongst you must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Jesus gathers the disciples together, and he contrasts the way that they are thinking about greatness and the way of true greatness in this kingdom that Jesus is establishing. So this is the great paradox of Christianity. The kingdom of God runs completely against the grain of the world and against the instincts of our own hearts. See, we know how this world works. We think like the way this world works. In this world, the way the world works, the first becomes great. The loudest gets heard. The strongest gain power. The more influence you have, the more important you must be. Our hearts naturally hunger for attention, crave to be honored and respected. That takes no effort at all. It takes no effort at all. In fact, just think about it. You came out of the womb selfish, glory hunting, self-serving. You came out of the womb screaming in our cribs at 2 a.m, demanding to be served. That's who we are. None of us has had to be taught selfishness. None of us needed lessons in entitlement. Whether we admit it or not, we have been needy, demanding, glory-hungry sinners since the day we were born. That is the most natural thing to us. Thinking that things that be done in my way, at my time, when I choose it. Now, little babies scream at their parents, just give me whatever I ask. If you don't, I'm going to scream louder. We were born with this mentality. It's how we live. None of us need to be taught this. It's our nature to be self-important, glory-hungry sinners. But Jesus says that's also the way of the the Gentiles, in other words, the rulers of the world. He's referring there to the Romans, the Roman overlords. Look at how they rule us. The kings who sit in their palaces and lord their powers over others. They oppress the weak, demand to be served, expect to be honored. Their greatness is measured by how many people stand beneath them, how many people they control and subdue and exploit. That mindset is everywhere. That mindset of the world, it is so pervasive. It shows up in your workplace, on the sports teams that you follow, in our communities, even in the church. Greatness is measured by control, by privilege, by status, by accomplishment, by influence. The higher you rise, the more people serve you. The more important you are, the more your preferences matter. But Jesus says, it shall not be among you. He completely overturns the system. He flips the system. In my kingdom, he says, greatness is not measured by how many people are beneath you, but by how willing you are to serve others and carry their burdens. Whoever would be great amongst you must be your servant. He says, whoever would be first must be slave of all. You want to be great in my kingdom? Look, greatness in my kingdom isn't going to be marked by positions of honor or privilege. You want to be like Jesus? You want to be useful in the mission? You want to be near to the heart of Christ? Then get over yourself and become a servant. Lay down your own preferences. Lay down your own self-importance. Lay down your rights. Lay down your privileges. Lay down your pursuit of honor. Lay down your need for recognition and respect. Stop chasing the position of privilege and start moving towards the lowest place. Seek out the overlooked. Seek out the needy. Carry the burdens of others who you would rather ignore. Give your time. Give up your money. Give up your comfort. Give up your convenience for the good of others. That's what it means to be great in the kingdom of God. Stop chasing privilege and start moving towards the lowliest place. Because in the kingdom of God, greatness isn't found in being served, but in becoming the servant of all. Now, that doesn't mean that Christians, we just kind of lay back and expect the whole world just to oppress us and take advantage of us. It doesn't mean being weak. In fact, Jesus said this is the key to strength in this world. Christian leadership isn't weak or passive. Jesus is leading. He's actively leading, yet he says that he has come to lay down his life as a servant of all. He walks ahead, he teaches, he corrects, he commands, he rebukes, but his authority is never self-serving. It's always used for the goods of others. He uses his position, his status, his privilege. He uses his all that he has and all that he owns, and he gives it for the sake of others. And then Jesus tells us why this matters. That even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. This is the clearest statement of the gospel in Mark, I believe. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. The title that Jesus picks up there, the Son of Man, goes all the way back to Daniel chapter 7, and it's the title given to the glorious King who will receive an everlasting dominion, honor, and kingdoms. Right? In Daniel 7, the Son of Man is a picture of the most glorious King of Kings, the mighty one, the one who will rule over an everlasting kingdom. You cannot imagine one more powerful than the Son of Man. Yet Jesus takes that title of glory, Son of Man, and he joins it with suffering and service and sacrifice. The King of glory has come as a suffering servant. He flips it. His greatness is not revealed in demanding that others serve him. His greatness is revealed in the fact that he serves others. His life's mission reaches its peak, not in just healing the sick or feeding the hungry or welcoming the outcast. His life's mission will reach its peak when he lays down his life on a cross. And it gives everything up, every last drop up. He pours it out on the cross. And he gives it all up as a servant for all. For us. As a ransom. That word ransom is so important. Ransom is a price that's paid. And why is a ransom paid? A ransom is paid to set free captives. He's saying, look, I'm not giving up my life for no reason. I'm not laying it down for you for no effect. When Jesus lays down his life for us, it does something. It accomplishes something. I am paying a ransom. I'm going to Jerusalem to lay down my life because there are captives who need to be set free. And I'm going to pour out every last drop of my life to pay a debt they cannot pay, to settle a ransom that needs to be paid. And when I do it, when I lay down my life as the King of glory, the suffering servant, and I pour it all out for them, I drink the cup, I plunge to death, I'm paying a ransom so that captives might be set free. The price is paid. That's what Jesus is going to do. That's true greatness. There is no greater king than this. There is no greater Lord than this. You see, we're the ones who need to be ransomed. In this story, we don't ask for the privilege of sitting at the right hand of the king. We ask for the privilege of being set free by the king. Captive. I can't save myself. I'm so overcome by sin. I'm condemned by death. The weight of death, it hangs over me. The world, it presses against us. We are captive against a good and holy God. Because of our sin, we're now chained to our sin. And the curse of sin is death. And so if you are captive to sin, then the outcome is death. You will die under the curse of sin and suffer an eternal condemnation for your sin. We are been sold into bondage because of our rebellion against this good God. But Jesus, the King of glory, serves us by laying down his comfort, his privilege, his glory, and his life to pay a ransom you could not pay. This is greatness. See, Christianity isn't a recovery plan. You don't simply need to be recovered. You don't need to have a better version of your own life. You don't have a problem that you just need to solve. Christianity isn't a recovery plan. It is a rescue mission. And Jesus walked that march to Jerusalem on a rescue mission as a King of glory who is going to lay down his life to set free his people. And if the King gave himself for us, then his people must be willing to give themselves for others. That's what it means to be great in his kingdom. So what does this look like? We see the response. A most beautiful picture of what this looks like. And they came to Jericho. And he was leaving Jericho with his disciples, and a great crowd, Bartimaeus, a blind beggar, the son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. All right, so we're walking, and they get to Jericho on their way to Jerusalem, and the crowd is going, and they pass through the gates of the city of Jericho, right? And there's a beggar who is sitting at that gate, Bartimaeus. I love this story. Blind Bartimaeus. At this point in the story, he is totally helpless, right? He had to have his friends walk him to the city gate because he couldn't get there himself. He is blind, unable to help himself, unable to save himself. But on this day, he's thinking, this is going to be a good day because for a blind beggar, when the pilgrims come by, you're going to make bank, right? So he's thinking, on this day, I'm going to see all these religious people, and they're going to give me lots of money, and this is going to be a great day. So that's how he wakes up that day. He goes to the city gates, he puts out his cloak, he starts asking the religious people on their way to the religious pilgrimage to give him money, and they give them money into his cloak. So that is Bartimaeus, blind, unable to see, helpless, unable to save himself, dependent on everybody else to do everything for him. He had no privilege, no status, the lowest of the low, the neediest of them all, no power, completely dependent on other people's charity just to get through the day. But then he starts hearing the crowd talk. And the crowd starts talking about this man, Jesus. Hey, Jesus is coming. Hey, I saw Jesus down the road. You know this man, Jesus? He's hearing the stories of Jesus. And he knows about this man, Jesus, the one who gives blind men eyes to see, deaf men ears to hear, lame men legs to walk, demons who will flee. He's heard about this man, Jesus, and this man, Bartimaeus, has come up with a conclusion about this man, Jesus. He must be the Son of David. This must be the King of glory. Jesus isn't just a miracle worker. He is the King of glory. He is the Son of David. He is the Messiah. Bartimaeus is convinced of this. So when he hears that Jesus is getting close, his cry is, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. He gives to Jesus a messianic title, recognizing that Jesus is the promised King, the Messiah, the hope of the world, the one who's come to rescue him. It doesn't say, Jesus, you got any money? He says, Jesus, give me mercy. There's something different about Jesus. He doesn't just ask for money to get through the day. He asks for a whole new life. And the irony is so significant. Bartimaeus is spiritually blind, but spiritually he sees. The disciples have physical sight. They see Jesus. They're with him. They're walking with him. They've seen him clearer than anybody else. And yet spiritually they're blind. The disciples ask for seats at a table. Privilege, power. Bartimaeus asks for mercy. They seek to be seen. Bartimaeus seeks to see. The crowd rebukes him. Be quiet. Like, who do you think you are? Think you can come towards Jesus? So how often it is that the people nearest to Jesus are the ones who becomes the obstacles to others getting to Jesus? See it all the time. Be quiet. Don't bother us. Look how messed up your life is. You've got nothing to offer. But Bartimaeus won't be stopped. He cries out all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. And this is the most important part of this story. Jesus stops. He hears the cry of a blind beggar, and he stops. He's marching towards the cross as the king going to his glory, and he stops for the one person that no one has ever stopped for, a blind beggar. And for Jesus, Bartimaeus was not some frustrating distraction or an inconvenient interruption. He was a man to be served. He was a divine appointment on the road to Jerusalem. And in stopping for him, Jesus illustrates the very point he's just been teaching. True greatness is not found in being served, but in becoming the servant of all. And then Jesus says, come to me. He calls him. Jesus calls blind Bartimaeus, come to me. Now this is extraordinary because Bartimaeus is still blind, but he hears the call of Jesus and he jumps up and he leaves his cloak behind and he runs to Jesus. And when a blind man runs, there's no going back. Not only that, but he leaves the cloak behind, and the cloak has his daily takings in it. He leaves everything behind. I'm not going back to the city gate. I don't need that money anymore. I don't need that cloak anymore. I don't need that gate anymore. I'm going to Jesus. I'm going to Jesus, and this is where everything changes. A blind man jumps up, hears the call of Jesus, and is irresistible. I must go to him. He has nothing to offer him, and yet he runs to him. This is irresistible grace. Totally unable to save himself, no way back. Once he gets up, he couldn't go back, but he knew it. He didn't need that cloak anymore. All he needed was Jesus. The only way to Jesus is to come in faith. He hears the call of Christ, and he goes to him, and Jesus asks him the same question he asked James and John. What do you want me to do for you? James and John want glory. Bartimaeus wants to see Jesus. Help me to see you. Recover my sight. And immediately he recovers his sight. And the first thing he sees is the King of glory. And where else can you go once you've seen him? You follow him. He follows him on the way. The way to where? Suffering and glory. That's the road to greatness. Bartimaeus moves from sitting beside the road to walking with Jesus on the road. He sees with new eyes. That's the journey of the disciple, to walk with Jesus. True greatness isn't found in being served. It's found in walking with the servant king. We need to learn that again and again, because we're constantly tempted to build ministries that look more like the world than the kingdom of God. We chase influence without sacrifice, visibility without humility, platforms without crosses. We want the appearance of success while avoiding the cost of being a servant. But that's not the way of Jesus. To love people means stepping into their brokenness. It means stopping even when it's inconvenient. It means carrying burdens that are not ours, refusing to reduce ministry to safe, manageable programs that demand so little of us. Enough of that kind of sham, fake Christianity. Enough of a faith that wants the crown but not the cross. Enough of serving just enough to ease our conscience while keeping our comfort untouched. It's all for him, or it's all for nothing. And at the end of this road, you'll find out which road you are truly on. Mercy must always lead to the gospel. See, Jesus isn't just calling us to be nice people that do nice things. He's saying, get up and get on this road with me. So the question isn't whether we admire Jesus on the road. The question is whether we follow him along the road to greatness. This is the path to greatness. This is the path to glory. Everything that James and John hunger for, he says, is there, is there, is there. There is a place of greatness. There is a crown you'll receive. There is glory that is coming. But it won't come in Jerusalem on a seat at a palace. It comes when all this is made new. And there's a new heaven and a new earth. But there is an uncomfortable journey on a road to glory. So will you follow me? He says. Join him on the only journey that will ever truly matter. The road to true greatness is the road that Jesus leads us on. Humility, mercy, sacrifice, the cross, and glory. So friends, he asks you the question, what do you want me to do for you? It's a question Jesus asked you this morning. What do you want me to do for you? Is your answer, yeah, I don't know, honor me, make my life easier, give me a little bit of respect, make my life healthier, give me a little bit more comfort on this journey? This journey is pretty tough. Can you make it a little bit more comfortable for me? Is that your answer? May it not be said of you. What do you want me to do for you? Son of David, have mercy on me. Restore my sight.